You're listening to the Religion Unplugged podcast. South Africa has a sexual abuse crisis. And while many of these attacks occur on the streets or in the home, every month, several cases of rape take place in churches and are perpetrated by pastors. The assaulted individuals come from every ethnic group, age, social class, and even gender. For over a decade, tens of thousands of South Africans are violated in their own communities. To better understand South Africa's abuse crisis and how faith communities are involved, I sat down with Vicky Abraham. Vicky is an investigative journalist based in Johannesburg, South Africa. In addition to her work at Religion Unplugged, Vicky's work has appeared in the Roy's Report, the Mail and Guardian, City Press, and many other publications. Vicky's article last week, entitled South Africa's Gender-Based Violence Crisis Reaches the Pulpit, details the incredible range of sexual violence that is occurring at the hands of the person who parishioners often trust most, their pastor. Abuse of teenagers is incredibly frequent, with many abusers having been abused in adolescence themselves and then perpetuating the cycle of sexual violence. But Vicky noted that even very elderly people and babies under a year old have fallen victim to abuse. Vicky walked me through the complex path that victims often have to walk in order to report their abuser. When brought to church authorities, many victims are rebuked and told that what they say is going to harm the church and disrupt the spiritual community. For men, who are also frequently victims, police officers will often mock them for having been sexually assaulted, heaping shame on an already devastating situation. Vicky's investigation into pastoral sex crimes is ongoing, with new cases appearing all the time. And while she is pleased with the outraged reactions from many healthy churches, and even South Africa's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, there's still a long way to come. Here's Vicky.
I just wanted to start off asking you, I'm looking at all the 10 cases at the bottom of your article, and many of those cases are multiple offenses from the same pastor. And I was deeply disturbed, obviously, when I came across the article, but I was also really shocked. I wasn't aware of how common this is, how big a deal it is. And I'm curious, is that everybody's experience, or is that particularly me not being in South Africa? How well known is this inside of South Africa?
I would say that rape is very high in our country. I think, as you have seen in my article, that and it doesn't have, it happens everywhere. In the churches, some of the perpetrators would be police officers, family members. So it just happens everywhere, even in the workspace as well. So mostly in the workplace, it would be, sexual harassment. But it's a very deep, serious problem in our country, actually. That's why the president declared it as a national disaster.
Yeah, and so it's kind of everywhere, and you're focusing specifically on religious leaders and how they've been involved with it. But you're also including largely cases from the last 2 years. Has there been a pretty major uptick in sexual crimes from religious leaders in the last 2 years? Or are you just noticing a pattern that happens to continue, a much older pattern of cycles of sexual abuse and rape?
Okay, well, you know what? Let me just rather take you through on the stats that I've used. Those are just cases, just few cases that I had to pull out from the NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority. So what they do, I think you know that also in America, you would be in the WhatsApp group of the authorities whereby they send you statements on media statements. So I pulled it out from there because I realized that every month there is a case about a pastor who has, assaulted or raped a minor. Or, currently what you'll notice is that most of the cases that I highlighted is mostly minors who have been taken advantage of by religious leaders. So it's a deep problem because, they take advantage of vulnerable people who do not have an understanding of the word of God, and people who are vulnerable. Because you find out that some of the victims, they go to church seeking, support, to be counseled by the leaders, by the church leaders, because some people will not feel comfortable talking to psychologists because of that stigma attached to it in our country, that, they would think that you're mad if you go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. You get my point? So going to a pastor, it becomes easier. And you find that some of the people, they've been abused from their own homes by their fathers, their brothers, their uncles. So they go to the church hoping that they will find comfort, they will find love, they would find support. But unfortunately, in that, they're being taken advantage of. There's a case that I reported on. It's one of the cases around there. In one of the cases, the cases that I highlighted, one of the pastors, just to show you how serious this is in our country, one of the pastors, what he did, they were just traveling with the family of the victim. They were all in a car. They just parked at the filling station, petrol station. And when they parked the car there, the minor stepped out of the car to go to the bathroom. The pastor followed the child and cornered the child in the toilets, in the bathrooms, and assaulted and raped the child. So I think you can see the problem that is taking place in our country. And you realize that even the person, our case study that I interviewed, Vicky, she was assaulted. She was sexually abused by her own father. And her father is a pastor. So even when women go for counseling, they experience the same thing because they are not, you find out that they come from broken homes and they narrate their challenges to the pastors, and they feel that the pastor, is a man of God. They will not assault them. They will not do anything. But in that, it just happens that the pastors will be seeing them in a different way. And because some of them, they have to provide for them. So that's where the problem is. And most of the children, you find that they are raised by single parents. They don't have fathers. Now, the pastor becomes a father figure. The pastor becomes a father to them. And you notice in our country, a pastor is normally called, they'll call them dad. Do you understand my point? So the pastor fills in that position of a father figure in a child who doesn't have a father at home. And the pastor will be the one who buys food for the family, would buy food for the child. And now they grow up knowing that the pastor he will be taking the role of a father figure in that family, in the child's life. And you find out that some of the young stars, they are brought up by pastors. So others will not even speak out. They will not speak out because they are scared that when they speak out, they will not be able to be supported. They will not be able to receive support, from the church. And when you speak out about the social ills in the church, nobody believes you. The churches about, like the intercessors in the church, like the people who are working in the church, they would think that you are a devil worshiper. Do you get my point? You are not saved. You want to break the church. You want to tear the church apart. So that's where you find that whatever that you see is not, most of the people are coming out to say that, like they've been abused in the churches. Most of them, they keep quiet about it. They don't talk about it, and they die silently. And you'll notice with Vicky as well. She opened a case against her father years after, but then with that particular case, she didn't get justice. She's torn apart. She doesn't know what to do, and she has to go and see psychologists. And even when it comes to rape in our country, even the people who are deaf, people who cannot hear, who cannot speak for themselves, they're being raped. Even grandmothers are being raped. I mean, there are cases of people who would be around 80, 90 years old, and that person will be raped. So I think as well, our police system, they are not doing much enough. But at the same time, I might say that I might be wrong to say they're not doing much enough, a lot to curb the crime in our country. But the problem is that these issues, when I'm saying maybe they're not doing enough, they are doing their part as well. But at the same time, the problem is that these are happening even in closed doors. They're not happening only on the streets. They are happening almost everywhere.
Yeah,
So
you,
I'll
you
say
touched
that,
on.
yes,
Sorry, go ahead.
there's a story that for Religion Unplugged, I think it was 2 years or 3 years back. You will notice that during the apartheid regime, there was and they were doing the same thing as well. Even before the new regime took over, the ANC took over. Even during the apartheid regime, it was still happening. So we can't say that the new leaders who are in power, they're not doing much. It happened before and it's still happening now. Women, somebody who's, let's say, 60 years old, and you ask them, what have you gone through during your childhood years? You find out that they have experienced that. In schools, they experience that. On the streets, they experience that. On the road, they experience that. And it's not only us as African women who are experiencing that as Black women. It happens to the colored women. I know in America, when you say colored, they take an offense to it, but, they'll call them Blacks. They experience that. The white people, they experience that. The Indian people, they experience that. So it doesn't choose color. It doesn't choose a status, whether are you wealthy or not, because even women who are highly educated, they face that. It could be rape. It could be physical abuse, all forms of abuse. Women are subjected to that in our country.
Yes. Yeah, you covered a lot of things that I want to talk more about. I think first of all, the idea that, somebody who's experienced abuse or who suspects their pastor to be abusive would bring it before the church and then be dismissed and even be told, that's problematic. You're trying to attack the church. I am curious, how are these guys getting caught? With all of that protection that they have, what's actually working in terms of the reporting process and in terms of the process of accusation and bringing them before trial and things like that? How does that actually occur when there's this entire system that's meant to cover it up and protect these preachers?
Okay, what normally happens with the kids? A mother who is not, probably not going to church, or a mother who's going to church, or a family member, they will notice that there's a sudden behavioral change. They will see that a child is no longer behaving the same way, and in some cases, yes, in the church, when you report that, they see you as a person who's coming in to bring, havoc in the church. Probably you it's demons that are speaking through you, that wants to bring the church into discipline. But then we have the policing system. We have in terms of the police, when you go and report such cases to the police, they can hear you. And it's not like every case that you report to the police, it will be heard. And there are so many women, some of them, they don't even want to go and speak out. But then there are activists, right, who would help those who have been affected, who have been afflicted in the church. So, and we also have the CRL Rights Commission, which is it's a commission that focuses on religion. What they do, they investigate the churches, they investigate the religious leaders. So that's what they focus on. So in that, what they normally do, they will go out there and open cases on behalf, assist the victims to open cases. But not everyone has got access to that. Like currently, I'm working on a story about, it's a developing story. This particular one, it's about a pastor who's raping males. And now they call it something like Ubutwala, right? You might not understand it because in America, because I'm also saying it in Zulu, I don't even know how to put it, but it has got to do with, I think, there's a video that you posted, that I think Timothy posted on my story to go along with this. And when you look at that video, you see the girls who are working on the streets in that video, they go to the sangomas, the traditional healers and all that. So now some of them, to get power, what they will do, that's what I understand. I haven't done the research on it that much. It's still a developing story, but the men that I've interviewed, that I've spoken to, they are narrating that their brother, their cousin, who is a pastor, has sexually harassed close to 4 family members, and there are more who are coming out. So it doesn't only happen to females. It also happens to males. But with the men, they cannot come out and say that they've been abused. Why? They cannot, because in our country, if you're a man and you come out and you say that you've been abused, they take it, they laugh at you. They think, it's, you can't say that I've been abused, right? It becomes like a mocking. You get mocked even when you go to open a case to the police. Even the same man that I'm interviewing, the police have turned him down. Like they can't take his statement. So there are places where you can report. The police are there, but not every case that you bring to the police, it will be recorded. They will go out and investigate. Like for instance, with the issues of the deaf people who have been raped, with them, when they've opened the cases, what happens is that they cannot assist them because we don't have police officer who can speak in South African Sign Language. It's like whereby in America, you find out that a woman who is deaf, they go to the police, they try to report an incident, but there's no police officer who can communicate in American Sign Language. So I think you understand this. So it's by sheer, I think, I don't know, sheer luck that whereby a woman, when they open a case, they will be heard. And another issue, women want to, because of the interrogation that they get from the police, whereby they will be interrogated and you will feel like, okay, you are at fault. So some women, they will feel like they are at fault. You look at the case of Omotose from Nigeria. He was a pastor from Nigeria, but he was based here in South Africa. And he molested, human trafficked many women, many young girls. But his case was dismissed. But now they want to reinstate, and it's a lot of women. And it took many years, but the women didn't get justice. And even though they have proof that they've been, human trafficked, they were subjected to rape and all this. So it's a very painful issue that is happening, because you ask yourself, you wonder if a woman is working, like I'll say, I don't want to exaggerate, but it could be a rape, it could be a physical abuse, it could be, there's so many forms of violence that women are facing. Abuse that women are facing in our country. Sometimes it could be emotional abuse. So, but rape is high, and also murder as well. Women are being, murdered in the universities. It happens. Even the march that I reported on, it was a huge march whereby the SLC members, they were leaders. They were raping women. They were raping students in the universities. So everywhere, It happens everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah. Wow.
I hope I
And
answered your question.
no, totally. Yes, totally. I think the other thing I'm really interested in is you talk about how there was all this campaigning for the president to declare it a was it a national disaster, and he finally did. He declared femicide and sexual abuse, gender-based violence a national disaster. Does that turn have action behind it? Is there a protocol that's followed when something is labeled a national disaster? Are these empty words, I guess is what I'm asking, or is he actually committing to doing something about it? And if he is, what is that?
I would say I am so far. I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of our president or say that it's just words. I can't say that because for what I've heard, in most cases, he constantly condemns it. He constantly condemns it. And in terms of plan of action, there is a lot of money that has been injected into making sure that they curb the abuse of women in the, like, for instance, making sure that, I wouldn't say that. I don't want to say much on that because I wouldn't say much about it, whether are they doing enough or not. And I wouldn't even say that he's just saying that to keep the women quiet. He's been speaking about it. He's been stating year in, year after to say that this is a challenge, this is a problem, and we must stop. Whereby they are, whereby they would be, whereby they talk to men. I mean, like, to say that, there are men as well who have started their own campaigns, to say that they have to stop, where they are taking action to say men must stop, doing what is taking place in our country. But in terms of what the president has done so far, I would say that there are programs in place, that they're placed in place to say that, to help keep what is happening in our country. But what happens that what is happening on ground level? Are they doing enough on ground level?
Yeah, and I'm so interested also in that section you talked about where men can't talk about their abuse because they're going to be mocked and made fun of for having had that happen to them. Are you seeing now, with this rise of people talking about it and with the president bringing it up and everybody starting to realize how big of an issue this is there any kind of pull in the right direction that's kind of pushing men to be like, you need to talk about this and you can talk about this and it's safe to do that? Or is it really still pretty entrenched in the culture that this is not something that men are allowed to have dealt with or allowed to talk about?
I think our men are silenced. I think as much as the women, are speaking out. Yes, women are speaking out in our country. They are speaking out about it, but others, they cannot speak out about it. But mostly men, they will not come out and say that they have been molested. They will not come out and talk about it, and they feel ashamed because even the police officers, when they are heard, it's an allegation that most of them, when they go to the police stations and they say, they've been assaulted by a woman, because when they say that they've been abused by a woman or they've been raped by another man, they laugh at them. So they become shy to speak out. And that's why you find out that most of them, they go and emulate that on women. They emulate that on their own children. They emulate it on the in people who are coming to their own church. Because, when a child, you'll notice with Figile, when you read the story that I wrote, Figile says her father said to her, he was doing that to her because that's what he was subjected to. So meaning that whatever was practiced on him, he will go out and do it to another person because they don't understand. So That's what they learn. And in other situations, you find that there are families who would be living in one room. You find out that in some areas, in this, maybe let's say in the informal settlement, in the RDP house, those would be whereby the whole family, the mother and the father, and maybe it would be 6 people living in the same house, and there's no privacy for parents. So whatever happens in the house, accidentally, kids will spot that. And now what happens is that when they go to school, they emulate whatever that they've seen. They think is the right thing. Do you understand my point? So they go out, not that the parents were careless or anything, but accidentally, if a child happens to wake up in the middle of the night and they live in one room, there's just one bed, the kitchen, everything is there. Now what happens is that they spot that, they go and emulate it to others at school. So they go and exercise that at school on their peers because they've seen it. And others would be that the boy has been, sexually abused by an older girl, whereby he loses his virginity to, maybe let's say he's 10 years old, he loses his virginity to a 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl. Now what they do when they go to school, that when they meet their peers on what they're playing, because they will do the same thing. For instance, when I remember that my first speech to Clemente, I was like saying to him, according to psychologists, kids at the age of 5 or 4 already they started doing sexually abusing others. So the psychologists say, what can we do to a child who's 5 years old? If a child who's 5 years old has already committed a crime, what do? You can't put the child behind bars. What I had done on my side, apart from my role as a journalist, I think around 2004, I hosted a march called Reclaiming My Purity, whereby I had to make sure that we do a petition in my, back in Joburg, whereby, we had to make sure that I speak to the churches, I speak to them, the police officers, and we had a huge march to say that for women, because you must understand that when these people are being raped, it doesn't end there. There are scars that they're left with. And even when they get into marriages, it still happens. Like the pain the pain is still ongoing. And that's why you find out that most marriages are falling apart because of the pain that many women are being subjected to, because of the pain that they were subjected to in their families, in the community. So when they get there in the marriage, it's not their husband that they will first know, because they've already known somebody. It's others you find out that there are cases whereby I've covered stories whereby it would be gang rape of a minor who's only 8 months old, or a baby who's 3 months old who has been raped by the father. And the father is just sitting there, and men coming in, or gang rape of a minor who's 3 months old by lots of men and grannies. And it will be issues of gangsterism. And it's so many issues, and and we are all trying. We are trying as journalists as well, reporting a lot about it, and people coming out, people forming groups to say that we want this to stop. With us reporting, we say it's a problem. I think you remember even when our delegate from South Africa went to President Trump's office, that was the issue that they highlighted. They spoke about it and they said, President Trump, here is an issue that is affecting South Africa. Women are suffering. Women are being subjected to rape. You are looking at the issues of land issues and farming. But the key issue that is happening in our country, that is high in our country, is the issue of rape and murder of women in our country.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people who are hearing this are going to be outraged and disturbed. And I'm wondering, what can people do? The average person who's hearing all this and very angry and wants to get involved in being part of the reform that needs to take place. What can they do to get involved?
What we need as a country, we need prayer. We need people to intercede for our country. We are calling on to nations to gather together and pray for our nation, to pray for our country. We are also calling, we are asking, I know that President Trump, he had our delegate, but probably this issue, he didn't pay attention to it. There's a crisis in our country, and this crisis is of women and children who are being raped on a daily basis, men who are being killed, women who are being killed. Yes, I'm not saying the issue of farming. It's what people of farmers that people are talking about. That the crisis in our country is the issue of rape, whereby people's innocence has been taken away from them. Women grow up not knowing when they get into their own marriages. They don't know the first people that they know it's not their husbands. They've known rapists outside. They've known gangsters outside. So those are the issues that they need to look into. Those are the issues that the presidents outside, people, policymakers have to look into and say, how can we help South Africa? How can we help this country? If people, they have ideas on how they can help our country, we'll appreciate that. Because it pains us as journalists that you go out there and you report on these issues on a daily basis. Every single day, there is, even today as I'm speaking to you, we get statements from the National Prosecuting Authority. Even now as we're speaking, somebody would be working at the police station to report a case of rape. It's an issue that is very serious that people should look into. Yes, we are not saying they must not look into the issues of farmers, but we are saying what is at stake in our country. It's women who are being killed in universities, in their own homes, on the streets, everywhere. So they have to, if they have some ideas, they can come up with any plans that they feel that, they can assist in anyhow. At the moment, we are trying as a country. I'm not saying the pastors, there are pastors who are fighting against this. There are churches we have got, we have come up with places whereby women can be counseled, women can receive counseling and support. It's not only I wouldn't say that most of the pastors are doing all this. Churches are also praying, but the problem is still there. It's been happening even before the new regime took over, even before the ANC government took over. It happened even way back, even while I was still in primary school, it was still happening. You know what I normally say, as a journalist, you look at it as well, the issues that happened during the apartheid regime. I'm saying that our leaders, they took over the land, but they did not cleanse the land. They did not pray for the country, but the same things, because when you take over as a leader and you realize there's still problems that are still taking place, what do? Because I'm not seeing them as much as our country. We have the numbers, 80% of people in our country, they are Christians. But I think if we can hold hands and pray and just not march, yes, marching is marching, but when we call on the name of the Lord and seek his face and say, Lord, we need your intervention. Yes, we are praying. Yes, we are doing much, but I think we need to come to a stand whereby we really humble ourselves. Even the nations, they have to support us in terms of prayer.
Thank you, Vicky. I think that's what we have time for today, but I really so appreciate you coming on, and I think this is such an important issue, and I just really appreciate you giving me the time to explain it and help me understand it better.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much.